Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Thursday, 24th July, 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. China is implementing new strategies to address economic and demographic shifts. The government is set to issue subsidy vouchers for senior citizens to boost consumption and ease pressure from an aging population. In related economic news, Country Garden reached an agreement with key banks, signaling potential stabilization in China's troubled real estate sector. Trading saw Chinese stocks climb to a 3.5-year high, driven by gains in rare earth elements and tourism, though Hong Kong stocks ended a 5-day rally ahead of trade discussions between China and the U.S. diplomatic efforts saw China and the EU convene for the 25th EU-China Summit in Beijing, where limited agreements were reached on climate change and rare earth minerals. Trade imbalances and the Ukraine war were also global trade dynamics are being affected as Chinese steel production contributes to oversupply, intensifying the effects of U.S. tariffs. In the electric vehicle market, Chinese EV maker Leapmotor is expanding globally, offering competitively priced smart EVs. Tesla is responding by introducing upgraded versions of its Shanghai-made Model 3 and Model Y vehicles, mirroring strategies of local competitors with larger and longer-range options. United States. Despite a decrease in the average long-term U.S. mortgage rate to 6.74%, record-high housing prices continue to challenge potential homebuyers. Applications for U.S. jobless benefits have declined for the 6th consecutive week, maintaining historically low levels. U.S. Treasuries faced a downturn as strong labor market data tempered expectations for Federal Reserve interest rate cut. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ achieved record highs. Publisher McGraw-Hill successfully raised $415 through a U.S. IPO. Furthermore, a recent survey reveals that a majority of respondents in both the U.S. and the European Union are receptive to using artificial intelligence models originating from China. China heightened global trade. Tensions have reportedly led to capital flight from mainland China, bolstering Hong Kong's market performance. Chinese toy maker Pop Mart International is taking legal action against several 7-Eleven store operators in California for allegedly selling counterfeit Labu merchandise and infringing on trademark. Complementing a sentiment, a survey showed that most respondents from the European Union, in addition to the US, are open to utilizing artificial intelligence models developed in China. Signs of easing Sino-US tensions have provided support for Hong Kong stocks. Australia. BP is planning to withdraw from its $36 billion green hydrogen project located in Australia. In a significant development, Australia and the UK are preparing to sign a $27 billion agreement concerning nuclear submarines. Australia is also introducing a new mandatory merger control regime. Market predictions suggest a decline in Australian shares, influenced by the ECB's decision to hold steady and concerns over US tariffs. Australian shares experienced a slight decrease amidst easing trade tensions. Newman's adjusted EPS saw an increase in Q2, driven by sales growth, while Macquarie reported a decrease in core net profit. Russia. Despite warnings regarding potential U.S. sanctions, an Indian firm exported HNX, an explosive compound frequently used in missiles, to Russia. India. Despite warnings of potential U.S. sanctions, an Indian firm exported HNX, an explosive compound commonly used in missiles, to Russia. European Union. Echoing trends in the U.S., a survey reveals that the majority of respondents in the European Union are open to using artificial intelligence models developed in China. India is deeply involved in several trade discussions while navigating the ups and downs of its stock market. The long-awaited India-UK trade deal, celebrated as a landmark achievement by both Labour leader Starmer and Prime Minister Modi, seeks to lower tariffs on products like Scotch whisky and Indian spices. Prime Minister Modi has said the deal will benefit youth, farmers, fishermen, and the non-SME sector. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that India expects preferential tariffs in ongoing trade discussions with the US, adding that negotiations are progressing positively. Experts are optimistic about sectors poised to profit from the India-UK free trade agreement and are recommending related stocks. The Indian stock market, however, has shown signs of weakness, with the Sensex dropping 12 points over 2 days, and the Nifty 50 falling below 24,900. On one particular day, the Nifty 50 closed down 0.63%. IDFC Bank and ICC Bank led gains in India stock benchmarks, while gains were capped by Reliance. Bajaj Finance stocks have seen a decline amid worries about asset quality and increased credit costs. Despite the weak market, Navratna Defence, SU Bell saw its share price rise, following order book updates worth €563 crore. Separately, an exclusive report unveiled that an Indian company shipped explosives to Russia, despite warnings from the USA. A CNBC newsletter emphasized the need for systemic changes in New Delhi to enhance India's attractiveness as a place to live and invest. Dr. Reddy's Laboratories is concentrating on a new growth phase, fueled by global demand for weight loss drugs. Saudi Arabia is pushing forward with its Vision 2030 plan. As part of this initiative, foreigners will be allowed to purchase property beginning in 2026. The King Abdullah Financial District has been recognized with a Guinness World Record for its pedestrian skywalk. Aligning with Vision 2030, Vancouver-based AI startup Unlockland was chosen for a housing project. Vatek Valberg secured a Rs 2,332 crore desalination project. The Saudi Tadawul all-share index saw a 0.35% decrease. Strengthening international ties, Saudi Arabia and Turkey have signed a defense cooperation agreement. Economic cooperation with Syria is also a priority, with investments reaching $6.40 billion for reconstruction. This includes over $6 billion in deals signed between the two countries. The Saudi Arabian wine market is seeing growth in non-alcoholic wine, especially among expatriates, which comes as the first wine shop in decades opens. Japan's stock market is booming, with the Nikkei reaching a one-year high and the Topix hitting a record peak. Fueled by trade deal optimism with the US gun war is expanding into Japan's power futures market. Japan also sees a surge in AI-related capital expenditure. However, right-wing populism poses a risk to Japan's safe haven status. Turning to the United States, the S&P 500 surged to a new record after the US and Japan agreed on a trade deal. Former Commerce Secretary Lutnick claimed US auto CEOs are comfortable with higher tariffs than Japan faces. However, the American Automotive Policy Council head representing GM, Ford, and Stellantis voiced concerns about Trump's Japan deal. In South Korea, the nation is experiencing increased pressure following the US-Japan trade agreement made before the August 1 deadline. European markets experienced volatility, driven by trade news and monetary policy. The European Central Bank held interest rates steady, awaiting clearer trade signals. Leaders from Europe met with their counterparts in China. They pushed for more balanced trade relations. Despite ongoing trade discussions between the EU and the US, the outcome is uncertain. The EU is weighing retaliatory measures. European investors are increasingly interested in ESG funds. This contrasts with outflows from US ESG strategies. Asian markets initially surged on hopes of a US-Japan tariff agreement, potentially enhancing trade. However, this optimism faded. Markets later retreated, influenced by Alphabet and AI stocks, driving Wall Street to record highs. Japan's Nikkei and the Shanghai Composite led the declines. Overall, Asian stocks slipped from previous peaks, while the dollar strengthened in anticipation of a key economic week. Turning to the United States, specifically Queens, New York City, the Tanger Mall is thriving. Its success stems from catering to Asian American shoppers with unique attractions, including the Kokoro Cat Cafe. Ukraine is facing renewed internal tensions as President Zelensky promised revisions to a recently passed anti-corruption law following public outcry. The controversial legislation has sparked protests, with critics claiming it diminishes the power of anti-corruption agencies. Simultaneously, drone attacks between Kyiv and Moscow have escalated, suggesting a breakdown in recent peace negotiations. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom is celebrating the completion of a substantial trade agreement with India, estimated at £4 80 billion. London markets responded positively to the news, and projections indicate significant economic gains for both nations. The deal covers diverse industries, notably premium liquor, which has fueled a surge in Indian liquor stocks. The UK government is presenting this agreement as a demonstration of its strengthened global position. Further bolstering the UK's financial sector, investment platform Lightyear has secured $23 million in Series B funding, earmarked for expanding retail investment opportunities within the country. South Korea's economy rebounded, showing a 0.6% expansion in the second quarter, and narrowly avoiding a technical recession, largely fueled by increased export. Meanwhile, the country faces growing pressure to finalize a trade agreement with the United States, aiming for terms as favorable as those secured by Japan, especially regarding agricultural market access. In other news, South Korean police raided the offices of HYBE, the agency behind the K-pop sensation BTS, amidst an investigation into alleged investor fraud. South Africa's IPO market is poised for a potential boost via secondary listings, but worries persist about the country's competitiveness in the U.S. market. In business developments, Natco plans to acquire a $226 billion stake in the South African pharmaceutical firm Adcock Ingram. Luno is also introducing tokenized stock offerings, enabling South African investors to access shares in companies like Apple and Tesla. The fast food industry holds a substantial position in South Africa's economy, valued at approximately $190 billion. Russia's financial sector experienced mixed performance on the MOEX as of 13.0 MSK on July 24, 2025. The ruble's recent strength is being closely analyzed for its causes and effects. Tragically, in Russia's Far East, a plane crash has left nearly 50 people presumed dead. Adding to global security concerns, Russia has taken delivery of a new nuclear-capable submarine, with President Putin emphasizing Moscow's dedication to its assigned purpose. In escalating tensions, Russia and Ukraine have exchanged attacks. Canada sees the launch of Go residential REIT, commencing trading after a substantial $560 CAD IPO, focusing on luxury U.S. rental apartments. The S&P TX Composite Index experienced a slight dip, closing down by 0.16%. France is poised to formally recognize Palestine as a state, President Emmanuel Macron announced, adding to mounting global pressure regarding the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Simultaneously, the French stock market witnessed a significant upswing fueled by robust corporate earnings from across France and the broader European region. Turning to Germany, Deutsche Bank reported unexpectedly strong earnings, resulting in a substantial increase in the bank's stock price. Sri Lanka's judicial system has ruled that the owners of the Singapore-flagged container ship that caused a major environmental disaster in 2021 must pay $1 billion in damages. The Supreme Court's decision aims to compensate for the widespread marine pollution resulting from the ship's sinking off the Sri Lankan coast. Turning to Singapore, The nation's stock market is reportedly benefiting from subsidies, according to financial news outlet. Further expanding its international connections, Jeju Air has inaugurated a new flight route linking Singapore with other destinations, signaling increased accessibility and potential economic opportunities. In the United States, a potential trade agreement with the European Union hangs in the balance. While negotiations are ongoing, the EU has signaled its readiness to impose retaliatory tariffs should the US proceed with its own tariffs without a deal. Meanwhile, Southwest Airlines in the US is embroiled in a legal battle. A passenger is suing the airline, claiming she was unfairly removed from a flight. The suit alleges that she was targeted because she was the only black individual seated in an exit row. Germany's stock market experienced a slight upswing as the DAX index rose. Simultaneously, a GfK study revealed that German consumer sentiment is waning, evidenced by an increasing preference for saving among households. In France, President Emmanuel Macron is facing renewed scrutiny over his pension reforms. Public discontent remains high, despite the reforms being enacted earlier this year. The reforms, which raise the retirement age, have triggered widespread protests and labor strikes across the country. Turning to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is set to address the ongoing wildfires crisis. The blazes, which have spread across multiple provinces, are causing significant air quality concerns in major cities, including Toronto and Montreal. The federal government is coordinating with provincial authorities to provide resources and support for firefighting efforts and affected communities. The United States is aiming to become a leading AI exporter, with Donald Trump signing 3 executive orders focused on artificial intelligence and vowing to counter woke AI model. Hungary would be significantly affected by potential tariffs imposed by the United States, despite the close ties between Prime Minister Viktor Orban and Donald Trump. Anticipation of these U.S. levies is contributing to a decline in beef prices within the Brazilian market. As for Vietnam, the Swiss-Viet Economic Forum holds high hopes for the upcoming visit of a prominent Vietnamese legislator. Shifting to South Africa, the approval of the MultiChoice acquisition is seen as a landmark event in the African media landscape. Uganda saw a visit from Absa Group CEO Kenny Fila, part of an East Africa roadshow. In Portugal, Pereira has been appointed as the new central bank chief, succeeding Centeno. Finally, news concerning Israel and the Jewish community is being disseminated in Spanish through Aurora Israel. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.